All right, we are live. Welcome to the Frightening Floyds podcast, episode 4. Today we have Bobby Shupeck, who is an author as well as president of Nightmare Press, which means he basically does the stuff I don't want to do. So, so we have. I don't know what this background is, but whatever it is, I'm not sure. But this is the Frightening Floyds podcast. So, right now, I've been talking to Bobby about this work he's been working on, and first of all, tell us a little bit about kind of how you've been out of the writing game for a while and why,
Uh, okay,
without
now
being too nasty.
we were just talking about things not to be said, but I will be as concise as I can. Essentially, it was getting to a point where some of my works that were coming out were getting reviewed by like major, I don't want to say just magazines, but different organizations, people that I thought pretty much I overworked myself in the promotional aspect and like drained all my money and everything.
Yeah, I
And
know that is.
yeah, and it just got to a point where I just became incredibly depressed about it, I guess, where it was like, what do you have to do to, you know, get this out to people? Like, it wasn't even so much of a become rich and famous thing. It was like I have all of these, major influential people, giving it the time of day and saying, "Hey, you should go check this out." And it just made me realize, well, at the time, like how much there you actually need to be able to succeed in the way that I wanted to succeed. So I pretended like I pretty much talked myself into thinking it was only about the money, and I left. And then now, a couple years later, I'm an idiot and realize I can't stop doing it even if I want to. So, yep, that's where we are now.
Yeah, this thing about reviews. Reviews are also, I have to mention, this says Jacob Floyd. It's actually the Frightening Floyds. I put Jacob Floyd because I didn't think Jenny was going to show up. So now she's here. So,
Well,
but
her name's technically in that background, just not spelled
yeah,
correctly
just
and
not, yeah, not
not the
that.
same person.
That's not the same Jenny. Reviews and insight. So that's the thing about reviews. Like, I see so many people, I've seen so many people on the indie scene, just hustle for reviews and try to reach out to everybody. And for indie writers, it can make a difference for sure between a few sales and such. But most of the time, within that circle, those reviews are pretty much sticking only with that inside crowd. Like, you're not always reaching readers per se. Um,
Yeah,
and I
well,
think
a big problem was for me, one of the reviews that I got, you hear me say it all the time. I've been accused of lying about it, but
we won't talk about that.
no, we won't. We got that out of our system 25 seconds before we went live. Uh, freaking we don't talk often in case everybody else can tell. Um, so like there's a magazine that's been around for a long time. You know what it is, but I'm just giving background. Called Publishers Weekly, which is not for readers typically. It's more the explanation given to me about it was that is where Hollywood producers, executives, whatever, that's where they get ideas for adaptation, oh my god,
Adaptation.
adapt, oh my god, I can't say it. I need to have more sex on the beach. But yes, adaptations, got it. Of like turning books into movies, basically.
You should have just
So
said that.
what?
You should have just said that.
Well, no, I had a goal and I had to say that word, and I did. Um, but and my problem with that is I threw all my eggs into that basket because like my publisher at the time, they I think he told me none of his books had ever been picked up by them. And he has some pretty notable people like at from horror that throughout the years. And so he was like, dude, this is a big deal. You need to be proud of yourself. Me not realizing that the general public did not read that it was, and I did have a couple Hollywood producers reach out, but I took that as, oh, I wrote the greatest thing ever. I need to drop thousands of dollars into promotion on Twitter. And then that evolved into the antagonist, main character of the book, who is a serial killer, taking on that persona over various social media and more so probably getting more FBI calls on me than books that I sold. So yeah, it just with all I was trying to do like a viral Blair Witch sort of thing is what it was. And this generation does not really take to that. It's either they have to be like, oh, that is fake, like they have to call it out as fake, or they take it the polar opposite direction. uh,
They think you're
and
glorifying it.
yeah, so it's like it's a very weird time to be. So all of that put together, it was just like this is too much of a headache for me. Like I don't even want to do it anymore. And then, as always, a couple years went by, and I'm like, well, I'm gonna do it again.
And I think that's interesting that you tell that story because there's probably others, many others, who have encountered similar experiences, and it just makes them want to give up. So hearing that somebody else has gone through that and then able to get to try and get back into it is probably helpful. Because part of that, like we've talked about before, promotion is really difficult. And especially online, if you don't have tons of money, and even if you dump a lot of money into it, there's no guarantee you're getting anything back, because it's all about knowing your audience, and not just knowing your audience, but knowing where your audience is. And that's a very tricky thing, which is why people who have a lot of money hire publicists and experts to help them with it.
Uh, well, and that's the other problem too, right? Is like name value. Like something I always said, if like I want the acclaim and adulation of the work that I've done. I don't want it to be because I'm a charismatic personality that people that is what drives people to read my stuff. Like I always don't want it to be about me ever. Like I want the work to stand by itself. And so even when I was doing all that, that was the goal of it, and it still is for me. But it's just the way things are nowadays. Like you said, unless you have something major backing you, and like I said, or you already have an established name, maybe not even in writing, just you have
Anywhere.
a lot of people know you. Influencers, what did they do before they to get famous? uh, freaking but yeah, it's like and that's the other thing I said about like trying to take it viral. People don't people nowadays want to call out the magician and tell the magician how they did something. They don't want to sit and just enjoy the show. Like they because of the advent of social media and everything, everybody not only feel not only do they give their opinions when it might be warranted, they feel like they have to give their opinions at all time, even if they don't know what they're talking about, or if that translates over to when you're trying to do something like create an engaging kind of like side world sort of thing where it's like, oh, this is fun. I can like lose myself in this for a little bit. People don't want to do that anymore. It's just it's a different time, and unfortunately, it took losing a lot of money and uh, personal reputation damage to realize, like, oh yeah, no, that's not going to work in 2021, whatever it was.
Yeah, I think an interesting point you made was about the time spent on social media and people giving their opinions. I've seen, I don't know, I've seen a lot of people within the communities, like you're talking about, they get on these these tirades, whatever they want to talk about, their opinions and stuff. And a lot of people waste a lot of writing time beefing with other people on there, fighting with people. And I got sucked into that at times. And I feel like if a lot of people probably spend as much energy and passion in putting that into their work, they might produce a lot more work and better work. And that's what I've tried to do with myself. And I don't know, how does your interactions on social media or what you've learned from it taught you about the writing industry
Oh,
without being too crass and whatever.
it's made me love the writing industry and respect it a great deal for all of the wonderful and talented people on social media that, yeah,
Me too.
no, no, in all actuality, we talk about it all the time with like guerrilla marketing. Honestly, I want to take things away from social media as much as possible for myself and for the press, only because I think not that all social media is bad, but like I said, you can be anyone from anywhere and say anything anytime you want. Like that's cool as far as like if you look at it from like a freedom of speech thing, but it's also not good because okay, like if you look at a newspaper, I used to say this back in the day when newspapers were more social media was coming up and newspapers were still kind of around getting phased out. And like I was like there's a reason not everybody's letter gets into the letters to the editor section. like some people's opinions are uninformed, sometimes they just suck. Sometimes yeah, sometimes it's just bias, like it's mad at someone for being right, and you are mad at a complete stranger because they proved you wrong without even realizing they were talking to you. So I like the idea of interacting with fans in some capacity, but for the most part, I like the idea of old school promoting where it's like you see what it is, you have no say over what you're seeing. It's either you think it's cool, you'll go check it out, maybe tell other people about it, but beyond that, it's like I want people to be fans again instead of thinking that they need to be involved intricately in what it is that they're consuming. It's like I'm the driver, you're in the passenger seat. Like, either get out or enjoy the ride. Like, I don't want to hear about how you would have taken a left or how, and that sounds kind of crappy, but it's like that is our job as writers to be able to do that by ourselves. Like, to be able to guide things in a way that people don't expect and that people enjoy. And unfortunately, with social media now, it's like everybody thinks that they know how to do that or something like that, and it brings everybody down, I think.
No, I definitely agree. I had a conversation with a guy the other day. It was brief, but we kind of touched on that. And he's a guy who's been around doing things for I don't know since the late '80s or early '90s, and we were talking about like people in writing groups who have never published anything. They don't. I don't even know if they've finished. A lot of them haven't even finished books, but yet they become experts. And when you go in there as someone, his example was more of being in a writing group, like a real writing group in person. But me, I'm talking more like on social media. You go in there and it's like these people, they think because they can read stuff about the insider's work or whatever and how it works, they go into these groups and think they know everything. And then you get
Hmm.
somebody in there who's actually done it, who's actually been involved for a while, tried to tell them, hey, no, this isn't how it is. You can do it that way, but this is a better way. Then they're like, oh, what do you know? They're like, you don't know anything. And it's like, buddy, some people have actually done things and they're trying to help you. And I think that's a big problem. Like you said, I'm the same way. I don't want to know, like when I would read books by people or even watch movies or listen to music, I don't want to know about what they did to get there. I don't care. I want to consume their product and enjoy that and not be worried about how they got there, what kind of person they are, and all that stuff. I think there's too much of that.
Yeah, no, you're right. See, if it's something I'm interested in, I I do like to know how they got there, but the only reason is 9 times out of 10, if it's something I'm interested in, it's something I'm going to try. So it's like, say, I don't know, if like when I used to do independent pro wrestling, like as someone who would never, if say I was just a fan and never wanted to do it, I would not care or want to know how they do it. But it's like, it's good, I think, to be able to have, those discussions and resources available for people who are taking it seriously and trying to get their foot in the door. The problem is, again, with social media, it's you're not getting vetted, for sure professionals in there
Mhm.
that's who you're listening to. You're getting people who maybe have never published a work, maybe did publish a work, but because of their social media following before they ever thought of being a writer, that got them like 400 5-star reviews just
Mhm.
based on who they were friends with, which then creates the delusion in their mind like, oh, I'm a great writer, I know what I'm doing.
And then
And
other
that's,
people strive for that too.
yeah,
That,
well,
yeah.
that's why I go back to what I said about reviews. I appreciate every review that I ever get. I do not base what I think my skill level is on those reviews. Only
Yeah.
because I've had people that reviewed my stuff and you could clearly tell they didn't finish the book but acted like they did.
Mhm.
And like just because a certain topic that came up like made them mad, so doing that. Or there's the opposite way where, like that book I said about the serial killer dude, you get people who are enamored unhealthily with real life serial killers who are like, this is the greatest thing ever, and it's like, no, you're just weird. like
Yeah,
like
we've talked an awful lot before about those people who have a serial killer fetish. It's pretty strange. Like these people who romanticize Charles Manson. I don't get it.
Yeah. Well, so that's what, now there are like some genuine reviews, which I always appreciate, especially when they are able to convey the exact point that I had in a certain scene or for the book as a whole. So it's like, yes, I nailed it. Like did I didn't have to tell them what I was trying to do. They saw it through what they were reading.
Mhm.
So that's cool, but again, that's why I say it comes across like like I don't want it to come across like I'm saying nobody that's not a professional shouldn't have an opinion, shut up. But I think people feel overconfidence in their opinion and lack of expertise that maybe it's like, again, say like I was reviewing a magic show that I watched. I don't know how to do any of that. I'm not going to sit here and say like the magician should have done this, they should have done that. I'm just going to say either I was entertained, it was great, or I'm going to say it wasn't a good show. Like, don't me as a non magician, I'm not going to sit there and try to dissect their act when I have no clue what even goes into
Doing
uh
it.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that's another thing. I think a lot of people, like you said, their social media has empowered a lot of uninformed opinions in many ways, not just in case of reviews, but like talking about reviews. You and I have both expressed our dislike for the whole review swap culture that goes on in the writing community, and we
Yeah.
will we'll try to say this in the most tactful and articulate way. But I don't. Like me, one thing like we agreed upon, and I was glad to hear it, is because I've never liked the whole like you post something on there. and you say, here's my book. If anyone's interested in reviewing it, I'll give you a free copy, which I'm not even for that anymore. I'm not giving away free copies just to review, unless it's to like a legitimate review site that has exposure, because reviews should only be about exposure, right? So, but then you get all these people popping on there and they're like, I'll read your book if you read mine and review it. It's like, why? If you're not genuinely interested in what I'm writing, I don't want you reviewing my book, because it's not going to be either, it's not going to be informed, or it's not going to be honest.
Yeah, well, and you also now have the pressure on you of like, okay, we're probably going to post these reviews on each of our respective pages. Now I feel the need to give them a good review no matter what, or else they're going to give me a bad review just based. It's dumb, and I'll tell you what's even worse than that. I could see where I think it's still amateurish, but like, say, like, you know, just somehow it gets brought up. Like they say, like, "Hey, you write? I'll read your book if you read mine." Okay, that's innocent enough, whatever. But the thing that has irritated me the most is whenever, and I don't do it anymore because like you said, I think that is going towards the unprofessional side, just to hand out random free copies to people anyway. But when I used to try to do that, um, it would irritate me to no end when I made what I was doing very clear, what my intentions were. I am giving you a copy of my book. If I wanted a copy of yours, it would have been there in the original thing. So like when people do that, I'm like, no, no, no. Here's the thing. I respect my work enough that I feel as if I'm providing you the privilege of reading my work before everyone else. And honestly, if you take your work seriously, you should feel the same. Like, hey, you're getting to read my stuff for free before everyone else. Not so I it was actually kind of disrespectful to me in a way when people would do that, because it's like you clearly don't respect my work or even care about it and it's not a self-indulgence thing. It's like that was the offer put out. Like, why are you
It's also
contacting me?
it's also about respecting the industry and what we do. I mean, because obviously those people don't respect their own work if they're trying to just randomly hand their books out for free to anybody just to get a review. I mean, it's just to any average Joe. If you're sending it to like Rue Morgue for free, yeah, okay, Fangora for
Hmm.
free, yeah, that's different. They have a big following, and then people actually pay attention to them. Or if you send them to like bloggers who have a huge following that you see always being listed and talked about, sure, that makes sense. But when you're just sending them out to everybody on your friends list, or a bunch of people in a Facebook group, man, it's disrespecting your own work.
it,
And I don't think what you said is wrong, because it is. You put a lot of time into that. We all do, and we shouldn't just give it away.
well, the other funny thing to me is, and I've experienced this myself, and I this is why I don't do it anymore, and other authors, other writers, other people trying to write that shall go unnamed. When they go and give out their stuff, or try to give out their stuff to everybody and their mother, 9 times out of 10, because you are not Stephen King, even your best friend has in their mind better things to do than read your rough draft or whatever. 9 out of 10 people aren't going to read it. In my entire 12-year career of writing novels, I think I've had 3 people that I personally knew that came back that actually read through something and gave me their opinion before it was published. Most people don't want to do that, and it's not a personal like an affront to you. It's more telling you, hey, you need to go out there and build your name up so people want to read your stuff,
Yeah,
friends,
you got to
family,
make it.
or whoever.
It's really kind of an imposition, though, too. I don't ask my friends and family and such to read my stuff, because they know I'm writing it. If they wanted to, they would ask to read it. I'm not just going to try and force it on people. And it's like you said too, like some people do that, and maybe when they're doing it, it's innocent enough, right? If they're just like, hey, you want to read this, give me some pointers, And if the person's like, well, I don't have time, and then the author's like, well, okay, I understand. Cool. It's like whatever. But when you get some people who get really mad about that, and there's like, and not just, well, I mean, you and I could name one person in particular, but there's several people who get mad and take it personally when someone they know doesn't want to read their stuff, and it's just like, you try to tell them, man, look, that's not a professional approach. And I get it, we're all indie, we're not technically professionals to a lot of people, but I mean, you can still have a professional mindset, and that will get you further than strange behavior.
Um, and the other thing about it is you're not going to go anywhere because that's honestly very small-minded. And I say
Right.
that as someone who used to be like that. Like, why doesn't anybody want to read my stuff? Just because the simple fact that I exist does not entitle me to feel like everybody should care about every single thing that I do. Like, it's like, and I've had that a couple, even personal relationships where I wasn't, it just got brought up on what new book I published, and I'd say like, oh, this one's kind of like a reverse horror story. The house isn't really haunted, but the guy is trying to make them go crazy by making them think it is haunted. And it would be like, oh, that's something I want to read. Do you have a copy of that? I just sold that. I didn't sell it because if it's a friend, I'm not going to charge them for a book. But I sold it to them in the sense that I didn't have to be like, hey, I'm your friend. You should read my stuff. It was like, hey, here's what my stuff's about. Oh, holy crap, that's really interesting. Like, that's how you do it. You and that's how it's harder, granted, to get people to actually pay, especially strangers, to pay for your work. That's a whole nother part of the industry that you said, like, you need marketing, you need a publicist, like, you not necessarily you always need, but
Yeah.
a vast majority of the people will greatly benefit from having that stuff.
You got to have some kind of connection, some kind of presence, some kind of force. Whether you make it yourself or you gather one behind you or whatever, you pretty much have to have something. And a good online presence helps. But like for us, where we live in Louisville, in the Louisville area, um, this city is very big on local artists of any kind, local creatives
Hmm.
of any kind. And we've been to other cities that are similar, and you really got to get out. And it can be exhausting, but you got to get out there and do what you can. And I know some people can't, but it always helps if you can go out and make yourself known. But like what you were talking about selling your book, one thing I think is important, and I mentioned it before. I think I mentioned it on the show with Marcus last week. I may have, I may not have, but the way you just sold your book, the way you told them, the proverbial person, what the book was about. I think that's a big part of people. I think that's a big part where authors fail on. Because have you ever been to an author's fair and listened to other authors try to pitch their book to somebody, a potential reader? It can be excruciating listening to them sometimes because they try to explain everything about the book. Nobody wants to hear that.
You
You
know,
got to learn the elevator pitch.
I was gonna say I never I don't think I ever did it. I think I just kind of incorporated it into my thinking without really intentionally doing it. I think I remember either Dave from Necro Publications, someone, it probably was him because I didn't really talk to anybody else early on, say something like have it in, like make like a 3 sentence pitch in your mind
Mhm.
or something like that. Pretty much repeat yourself every time and make sure that it hits all of the points that would make people hungry to consume it. Like, don't sit there and go on and on about if they want the book, they can get all the details, but make the book something that they want to learn those details from.
Right. Well, yeah. So when they go, "What's this book about?" For like me, like just for an example, someone comes up to one of our tables and they're like, "Oh, Night of the Possums. That's hilarious. What's that about?" Well, it's about opossums rising up and attacking Bardstown, Kentucky. So then, if that sounds cool to them, they're going, "Oh, that's cool." Then they're going to flip it over and read the back if they want more details. Then, if that interests them, and even sometimes they don't even read the back, they're just like, "Oh yeah, I want to buy it," or they'll just be like, "Oh, that's funny. Set it down and talk to me about possums." And I think, and I think and that's okay too. And that's another thing I want to talk about is when authors they change their attitude towards a potential reader or someone that comes to their tables when they don't express wanting to buy their book right away. And I think that's a bad move. It's a real bad move because you one, just be a decent human being and be nice to people anyway. Just because they ain't buying your book doesn't make them a bad person. But two, they may not be buying your book right now, but they might go on Amazon later and buy it. They might follow your page.
Well, I've noticed that with any of the shows we go, like in the last show, some people had some rotten attitudes. So
Yeah, some other people around you, you'll hear people with real bad attitudes, and they're just like, you're just sinking yourself, man, because then that person's gonna be like, man, that person was an a-hole,
like we were selling our books, the psychic got mad and had a tantrum.
Yeah,
oh my gosh.
Well, yeah, I'm not gonna expand on that,
this
but
happened.
This was a while back. This was a while back. This wasn't anything recent. Or like we had a guy at one event who, when we were trying to sell our books, and like he would keep bothering people at our table with his stuff, and it's just like that's bad. That's bad behavior. He wasn't selling books though; he was selling something else.
And I wasn't reading tarot or anything like that at the time, or even there. But I guess he saw it coming.
Yeah, well, some of these people they get really particular about having attention taken away from them, and I think that brings up another point where people say, well, authors aren't in competition with one another. Well, it's like, yeah, maybe not directly, but if that's really what you think, you're being kind of naive because you are competing against other authors for readers' attention, whether directly or not.
Yeah. Well, and that's my thing about it. Like, first of all, like, say, like, one of my books about serial killers. If someone's talking to me and they're like, you know what, I don't really like that kind of stuff. That's a little too graphic for me. Like, it's almost kind of a relief because I'm like, oh, you're not a freaking weirdo. Okay, good. like I can I can get away from that crowd for a minute. No, I'm joking. But like,
like, well, good. We're glad that's not your thing.
Yeah, freaking, yeah, like, I haven't done a lot of as an author public appearances, but like I consider myself somewhat of a showman as far as like how I present myself and whatever.
Especially with hotel room reviews, those.
Mm-hmm.
You've only done one. I'm still waiting on more for the.
I mean, I'm in a hotel right now. I could. I'd probably break my phone if I tried to bounce on the bed. But freaking, yeah, like acting like that, where you just get mad if you're not getting the attention. Again, you know what that says? Your presentation sucks. Go work on it.
Yeah, work
like,
on
yeah,
yeah.
I mean, because the frustration is coming out externally from something that's actually internal. Like, you're mad that you are not doing as well as someone else to get their attention. Go fix it. Like, it's
easy to blame others, right?
I failed 1,000. Like I said, I have allegedly an FBI folder open with my name in it because
I don't know if that's a failure though. You got somebody's attention.
Yeah. Oh, I remember some woman messaged me on my private profile, and she was like, "I saw your Twitter. I followed all the breadcrumbs, and I found out you're not a serial killer. You're just some guy trying to sell books." And I'm like, "Yeah."
Wow.
Yeah, and she's like, well, just to let you know,
Encyclopedia Brown, isn't she?
She's like, just to let you know, I reported you to the FBI, and then I found out you weren't a real serial killer. And I'm like, why would you call the FBI and then do research?
Wow. Well, I had a woman one time message me saying that she was tracking me on my phone. Yeah, this was during all that drama that was going on. But yeah, somebody say that. Yeah, I'm sure it was a lie. But, well, we've talked a lot about the philosophies in the writing world. So go ahead and tell us a little bit about the current work you are working on. What made you want to do it?
Oh, well, actually, you're you're actually partially to blame for that. So I was diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder. I want to say like 11 years ago. Like it was like all messed up. I was like on suicide watch in the hospital for 3 days and stuff like that. And I've never like really taken medication for it or tried to do anything about it. And then you and a former mutual acquaintance who will go unnamed had both within a span of like 7 months said like, I think you have OCD. I don't think you said I think. I think you were like, dude, you definitely have OCD.
OCD, but well,
Like,
my OCD therapist told me once that GAD gets he said he feels like it gets overdiagnosed, and that a lot of times people have OCD when they get diagnosed with that.
which I could see. But an aspect of that I had never thought of before. So the phrase intrusive thoughts is has become very prominent in Western society. I don't know how, pretty recently. I don't remember like hearing it when I was a kid or
Yeah,
anything like that.
pretty recent.
Yeah, but so I knew the concept behind it, but and I've known other people that have been diagnosed with OCD, but I never really that have intrusive thoughts, but I never really went into like talk to them about it deeply. And then I realized like as I've been seeing it more and more, and then with you guys saying like, I think you have OCD, and then looking into the intrusive thought thing a lot more, I'm like, holy crap, that's me. Like I can't like right now when I'm doing something, I'm not thinking about anything else. I'm just thinking of my next response. But when I am sitting doing absolutely nothing or in a high pressure situation where I'm trying to kind of like pull myself away from the situation a little to stop from freaking out, I realize like I will just have like constant racing thoughts, and a lot of them are not. That's why they're intrusive. It's almost like you don't have that filter in your mind to shut off the things that you don't want to think about. And as I actually I think came up with the idea probably back. I think I mentioned this to you back in March or April or something like that.
You
Maybe.
mentioned it a while back. I told you should do it. I don't know if it was that far back, but I told you should definitely pursue it.
Yeah, it was after you said that I definitely had OCD. That's when I was like, maybe. So essentially, as you worded it, it's a stream of consciousness narrative where everything is inside the protagonist's head. So what you're getting is like, uh, okay, like the scene I just did, he's doing a job interview. So it's like, okay, sit down, don't stare at the guy, don't look weird, don't smile or laugh when you shouldn't. Oh, you just smiled, you idiot. Like, and then at the same time, like they're like, so what experience do you have? And then you're like, experience. What experience? Experience in what? And then you just like go off on all these things, but then at the same time the reader is like, he's sitting here like this is all going on in his mind in a 5 second time span, and
And
then
it does.
and then finally, like the guy will think in his head, like, tell him that you've worked in sales for 5 years. So all of that just to get to a simple answer that a normal person would just be like, I've worked in sales for 5 years, like nothing else behind it. So
You just
yeah.
overthink everything, and you think things that aren't really necessarily real. Because I know I was told too when I was after I'd been diagnosed that you have OCD people do have a form of delusions, and like you thinking in that book, the guy was thinking people are going to run him over when he crosses the street. That's a worry, but sometimes it's a form of delusion, or like some people have really bad superstitions when they have OCD.
Oh yeah, but and the thing is, you realize it as it's happening and after the fact. Like there have been times where I've like suddenly sprinted up the stairs from like a dark basement in my 30s, and like because I would just get the idea in my head like, what if something was chasing you right now like up the
Mhm.
stairs? And as it's happening, I'm thinking like, there's nothing there. Like, what are you doing? It's almost like you're creating a fight or flight response in your body where it's like, you know, what you're thinking isn't going to actually happen, but and I think the interesting thing that I'm just getting into with this is, like, people think like OCD is, or the main thing about this is the intrusive thought aspect, that's like an internal thing and it's just something you struggle with internally. I believe it also affects your real life decision making,
It does.
because yeah, because you have all of these thoughts that you're like, this isn't me. I don't believe this. Why am I thinking this? And then at the same time, when you do have a real decision to make, now you're thinking, well, is what I am about to do actually a good decision, or is it one of these crazy, like, anxiety driven thoughts? Like, and it muddies things. It can really bad.
And I think that'll be. Oh,
I muted myself. I hope nobody heard that.
yeah, it was off.
Okay.
I think it'll be good because I read a little bit of it, and it does capture that feel pretty well. And I think the good thing about that book is the idea behind it is that, there's probably a lot of people who deal with that in some form or another, because people who have, ADHD have racing thoughts too. And so they say, I don't know if I have it. Some people thought I have, but mostly I've been diagnosed with the OCD. But they think some people have, those racing thoughts, and those who can read the book will be like, wow, I'm not the only person. I thought I was crazy all this time. And
Well, well, and the thing is, like, again, I told you and a couple other people, like, normally the people I make up, like, we discuss, like, they all have aspects of us in them, only because it's us writing them. So
right, and it always
we
does.
can't, yeah, we can't go outside of what we know. So,
Mhm.
but with this, it's very personal in a way none of my other stuff has been, because, typically when you're trying to come up with a protagonist, a villain, whatever, there's something different about them than anything else, anyone, whatever, that's ever existed. So it's like, uh, this guy, Monk. I used to love the show Monk.
Mhm.
This was that OCD that he had.
I don't remember. I never watched it. Oh, did you watch it?
Yeah, yeah, those.
I freaking love Monk. Anyway,
Is it about an actual monk?
no,
No.
no, it's a detective named Monk. His wife
Oh,
got killed in a car bombing, and he already had, like, OCD tendencies, and it just, I think, for a couple years made, like, he couldn't work as a detective anymore. It just, so that's like the whole premise behind that. It's not some dude waking up and just doing boring detective work every day. The whole premise is they called him the defective detective. Like, yeah, there was like a gimmick behind it. Like, it wasn't just this guy. There's something off, odd, funny about him, that it's like, this guy shouldn't be doing detective work. Oh, but he's the best detective ever.
well, I
Even
would
though
think OCD would probably help you with being a detective. It probably help quite a bit.
it actually it actually did. It basically was like, they used those aspects to show how good of a detective he is, but the emotional aspect of it was crippling to him at times. So it
Yeah.
was interesting. But my point about this is, like, I'm not making the guy a serial killer. I'm not making him, you know, we talked about it. Like, he's not Harry Potter and wizard school or whatever. He's a dude.
He's
Like,
just a guy.
trying to get a job, meets a girl, tries to get a girlfriend. It's a dude. So
It's just
it's
some
like,
guy.
yeah. And, like, I like that, and I like that I'm going outside of the genre of horror. Not that I have a problem with horror, but I think that's another reason I stopped writing for a while. I was like, I think I did everything, at least for right now, in this genre that I can, that, is, to me, something innovative or different or whatever. So it was like, I don't want to keep writing the same stuff over and over again. Like, I want to do something different, like every other work that I've tried to do. So I think that's another thing where it's like, not that I'm excited to be out of horror, but it's like, okay, I can do some. I'm not like a one trick pony. I can do other stuff.
I feel like it's I don't know. I feel like that's a genre you can outgrow. I think but really, I mean, I think if you write long enough in any genre, you will reach a point where you very well may outgrow it. Even Clive Barker and Stephen King, they stopped pretty much writing solely horror at one point. They've gone back to it, but you evolve. I wouldn't say outgrow it. You evolve as a writer.
Yeah.
But let's say like with this book, how do you feel like? Do you feel like writing it because it's so personal that maybe you had some personal block that was keeping you from writing for so long, and like maybe finding this as that sort of getting over that hurdles maybe could help you get back into writing regularly? Or
I think it's possible. I I told you like because you said you work on so many projects at once at different times. I have to do it like one thing at a time. So essentially, I just want to get through this. Like literally, the first thing I'm gonna do after we hang up, I'm gonna smoke a cigarette and then be up here and be writing like literally within 10 minutes after we're done with this. So right now, have my lips been changing color?
I don't think so.
Okay. Okay, I've been like drinking this can of Sex on the Beach, and I looked down and it looked like I was wearing lipstick, and I was like, but
Oh wow.
anyway, uh, so yeah, right now I'm enthused. It's the same way I am about I have been about all of my works. I'm enthusiastic about this one right now, so I just want to get this done and then see what happens after that.
Just take it one step at a time.
You think you'll do
Yep.
events?
What did you say, Jenny?
Do you think you'll do events?
Like do any signings or anything?
Yeah, it's a little hard because my day job, you would think I'd be able to do it a lot more because I'm on the road, but it's like we travel, but sometimes you don't know when you're gonna get done for the day, and it's hard to coordinate like event like, hey, let everybody in this town know I'm gonna be here at 5 on Friday, and then it's like, oh well, we didn't get off work till 5:30 or 6, so it's a little difficult, but
Yeah, totally understand.
Well, it would be cool though if you could start taking copies of your books around and trying to put them in stores afterwards.
which I think I'm gonna do. I know I brought it up. One of these times when you guys are doing an event down there during the weekend and I'm home, I plan on crashing that. So
Oh, that's cool.
Well, that's fine. Yeah, we tried to set up an event with another author, but it didn't happen. So, but
oh,
so
there's no setting up. I'm not gonna tell you I'm coming, and it's
I remember that one time you were passing through here and you went right through our city, and you were like, "Man, I was hoping we get to stop there and go eat raccoons or whatever it is we eat out here in Kentucky." Or
raccoon
whatever it
burgers.
was.
Awesome.
Yeah, possum burgers.
Yeah.
Um,
No, because we were supposed to stop in Louisville that night, and then somebody was like, we can go like 4 hours further. And I was like, damn it, okay.
you went to
It was
Cincinnati.
Derby.
Oh yeah, it was Derby. You
Or
would,
Thunder of Louisville.
it
Or
was-
something.
it was-
I was like, hey.
yeah, it was during Derby. You all would have been. They would have priced gouged
Yeah.
you out the butt any room.
Oh, you know what? I think that's why we didn't actually. Yeah, which makes sense.
Yeah, because they even out here in the Shepherdsville area, further south, even
Yeah.
they jack their prices up because hotels get so full out here during Derby.
Mhm.
It's insane. It's crazy. I don't get it. But hey, you like what you like, right? So
Kentucky likes horses.
yeah, well, shoot, if you ever go to Lexington, you'll see that's horse. There's even a place further south called Horse City or Horse Cave or something like that. Horse Cave, yeah.
City.
Yeah, no, I think I was getting that mixed up with Cave City. So we love our Mammoth Cave out here. But anyway, so tell us about some of your duties as president of Nightmare Press.
We are live. I help with decision making.
Dang, his eyes are.
No, seriously, but no, when I reached out to you earlier this year about restarting the press, I think it was because we kind of had the same idea. We kind of wanted to see something new in the not just horror. I wanted to take Nightmare Press away from solely being just horror ever since I started it. But we kind of shared the same idea about wanting to do something different than what was being done around us.
Yeah. I just intrusive thoughts. I'm not gonna say it.
See, I've learned to master mine over the years.
Well, it was gonna be turn nightmare. It was gonna turn nightmare press into something else that's not appropriate.
Not
That
appropriate, yeah.
also
I think
involves
a
dreaming.
good goal for you guys would be Scarefest next year.
Doing
I
scare
think that'd
fest.
be neat.
Yeah, because
That'd be one convention to definitely stick to.
and that's in Lexington where we get to see all the horses. But that, yeah, a lot of the COVID killed off a lot of the
Horses.
no, well, probably that too. A lot of the conventions because there were just so many. But Scarefest survived, and they've been around about 16 years, and they get a lot of people down there. So that would be a good place to represent Nightmare Press.
Yeah, I think that'd be awesome. If we can get that set up, I would definitely do it.
Yeah,
Thank you guys to make that happen.
yeah, we'll definitely give that
Yeah.
one a shot. What'd you do? Sneeze all over the camera? What did you do?
No, it's because I saw one before we went live that I was in a portrait mode, I think, like where it's like you can't see all the background. So I'm holding
Yeah.
the phone sideways so everybody gets a full screen, and I keep like putting my thumb over the camera by accident.
All right. Well, it's a good idea. So, all right. So, you've been in the game for a long time. Tell us about some of the other stuff you've written and how you feel like what you're doing now differs from that, other than just being not pure horror.
Well, I think like starting out, I'm not gonna go through like my full library, but like when I first started out, it was very much. I'm not gonna like say like my first novel wasn't good, but it's nowhere near up to the standards that I would hold myself to now. It was basically literally what happened was I was like reading a lot of Stephen King, and it was like I said about wanting to be in the driver's seat earlier. I would read stuff and I'd be like, oh, well, I would have did it this way. I would have did this that way. And it was like, oh, I'll just write a novel. And I did, and somehow it got accepted. I had never written or had anything published before that. I don't know what it is with me. It's never like, I want to be a musician. I'm going to try to make a song. It's like when I get that in my head, I'm like, I'm going to make like a full 17 track LP. I'm gonna, like, and every single time I do that. And that got accepted somehow. I mean, the editing was atrocious. And so I think what's different now is I had a false sense of confidence, like for my first, I want to say 5 or 6 books. And then when it got around to like Separating You, the book I mentioned with the serial killer and the Hollywood producers contacting me, I had like, okay, I know what I'm doing now. Like I had that confidence. Like I don't know everything yet, but I'm competent enough that with the skill set I have now, I know objectively this is well written, which I never had before. I was just like, oh, people are gonna think this is cool because I put this, and that in there. Whereas now I'm like, no, I don't care if people think it's cool because I made something gross or something. It's more I don't care what people think of it. It's good. Like it's
Right.
objectively, you could look at it and be like, this is well written. So that's the difference, I think, early on to what I do now.
I think that's really important mindset for authors to have. They need to. I think it's important to listen to criticism and listen to reviews and to a certain point. But if you know your work well enough, and you're going to know that some of the reviews maybe they didn't really understand what you're doing. You don't say it publicly. Like I'm always against authors coming out and blasting reviews left for their work. I think it's very unprofessional. It's very childish looking. But you have to be able at some point to sit down and say, hey, I know that I know what I'm doing. I know I'm a competent writer. That doesn't mean you're sitting there saying I'm the greatest writer of all time or anything stupid like that. But it's good to know that, hey, I do know what I'm doing and have that confidence, because why else would you do it if you didn't think you could? So yeah.
Yeah. Oh my, like when I first started, I did do some signings with another author who was under the same press who happened to live near me. We would do these signings and I would try to like do like these 45-minute motivational speeches. Like, I dropped out of high school, I dropped out of ninth grade. Everybody can do this. Like, and looking back on it, I'm like, A, you had no freaking clue what you were doing at that time. And B, like, I that's the polar opposite mindset of the advice I give people now. Like, I'll tell people, like, anybody can do this if they want to. Don't do it if you're not going to take it seriously.
Yeah, that's what it is.
That's yeah, that's something that I would not tell people back then because I wasn't taking it seriously. Like, I was like, oh well, my very first thing I ever wrote got accepted to this press that uh, Edward Lee helped start, and freaking Dave mentioned, the owner of Nightmare Press mentioned to me that I might get a
I
Stoker
mean,
Award for
you
this.
said you said Nightmare Press.
Oh,
You mean something else? Necro, was it Necro?
oh,
What is he on?
Necro Publications. Yeah,
Yeah,
that Nightmare Press
not
blows.
Nightmare Press.
Yeah, back when I was with a real press.
Hey, you chose this route, buddy.
Uh-huh.
You're going down with the ship.
Uh-huh. But yeah, so it was like, oh, Dave from Necro said I could get nominated for a Bram Stoker Award for this, and all, and it was like a year later, and I think I had already written my second one, which I was self-published, and I really need to go back and edit for re-release. But I started getting this realization, like, okay, I have good ideas, and I maybe can write a good scene. I, I need more. So like essentially I'd be like bugging Dave from Necro about, you said this was super hard to edit. What was hard to edit? And then reading stuff about how to be technically proper in writing and like all this other stuff. And that's like I said, where I am now, where now I'm like, okay, now I have that humility where I know I always need to keep learning, but for where I am right now, I'm competent.
Yeah, I think it's important for authors, not just authors, but anybody doing anything that they care about, to know that there's always room for growth and just keep moving forward. And that's what we all try to do. But
That's right.
we're getting close to being out of time. Is there anything you'd like to say or plug, or not, or probably shouldn't? I shouldn't give you this opportunity to say whatever you want.
Well, first of all, I want to say that I am grateful that this will end soon because I've been sitting here, sitting Indian style for the past hour in a hotel bed, and I'm in so much pain through my
I would
legs
be
right
too.
now.
I can't
Yeah.
sit Indian style.
Yeah, I've been like gritting my teeth for the past 15 minutes, but it's okay. Uh, no, I mean, right now, I mean, yeah, there's my one book, which will be re-released through Nightmare Press because it did not, I think, get the proper attention that it got the first time it was published. Projection, which is under my real name, which is John Shupek. I'd love to just get more people to read that because I think, as far as like my supernatural horror stuff, I think that's like the best thing, bar none, that I've ever done, and I wish that would have had more light shown on it. And then Separating You, a self-help book for the lost, lonely, upset, and obsessed, under the pseudonym of Dr. Jason Carson. Those are my two most recent things, and I think the best things that I've done. And yeah, people want to jump on the old Amazon machine and check those out.
Yep, and keep watching Nightmare Press for these good releases and re-releases forthcoming.
Yes,
And
and please, somebody, if you can, send Ben Gay for my legs.
Yeah, I can't imagine. Just sitting in this chair hurts me. So I couldn't imagine sitting on a hotel bed with no back to it.
Mhm.
All right. Well, thank you for stopping in, and we will talk to you soon.
All right. Bye.